All right, chapter 6.7, number 1. Our first problem says the principal borrowed at simple interest rate. So once you identify that, we want to write down that formula. It tells us simple interest. The formula for simple interest is I equals P times R times T. The principal is 3,000. They give that to us, so I will plug in a 3,000 here. The interest rate is 2%. Okay, so rate is 2%. You want to convert that to a decimal. So I like to remember if we think about this alphabetical order, D for decimal comes before P, and it's later on. If I'm going from decimal to percent, I would move the decimal 2 times to the right, so going to the right. And if I'm going from percent back to decimal, I would move it 2 times to the left. So we have a percent, we're moving it to decimal form, so I got to go 1, 2. So this is equal to 0.02. So that 2% is 0.02 as a decimal, and then it tells me time is equal to 15 months. Okay, time equal 15 months. Okay, so we need to convert this to years. All right, so there are 12 months in a year. So instead of multiplying by 15, you're going to multiply by 15 divided by 12. Okay, because that will give us time in years. So you can leave it like that. You don't have to reduce it. You just need to know that if they don't give you time in years, you need to do a conversion and find out what portion of a year that is. So this is actually a little bit more than a year. This is 1 1/4 of a year, but this is totally fine. So if they give you any other units other than years, you divide by its part. So like if there was weeks, you would divide by 52. Days, 365, and so on. So this is what we're going to input, and this will allow us to find the simple interest. So I'm going to just type it all in like that. Let me quit from what I last had. Okay, so I'm going to do 3,000 times 0.02 times, and I can just do 15, and then divide it by 12. We type all that in and we get 75. So the simple interest here is 75. Okay, number 2, it says a person borrowed this amount. After 6 months, the payoff of the loan was this amount. What was the annual rate of interest charged? Okay, so again, we're going to be assuming simple interest. Now, when they give you the final payoff, this is what they've done. They've added the principal back to the interest. And this is the formula that they're using. So they found the interest, they added it to the principal, and they get this formula. All right, this formula also can be simplified. If you factor out P, you pull the P out, and then you'll have 1 plus RT. But this is what's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work backwards, and we're going to figure out what this value of R was. So I'm going to start with the full formula. So A, the total amount that we paid back, is equal to this formula, P times 1 plus RT. And we're just going to work backwards. Okay, so I'm going to plug in the final payoff right here was the 3,708. And then that is equal to the amount borrowed, which was 3,600. And we multiply that by 1 plus the rate, which we don't know, and then the time was 6 months. So we're going to say 6 divided by 12. Okay, those are being multiplied. So this is what we're going to be solving. All right, so working backwards, we're going to subtract 3,600 from here, and that will give us simple interest part. Okay, so we're going to subtract, or actually divide. We can't subtract that off. These are being multiplied. So divide that off, actually. Divide by 36. And then that will leave us with, we don't want to round into the very end. So I'm going to say 3708 divided by 3,600. So that gives us 1.03. So we have 1.03. Now we don't need the parentheses anymore. It's equal to 1 plus r times 6 divided by 12. We'll just write it as 1/2, or we can write it as 0.5. Okay, whatever will help you the best. I like the fraction, but I'll leave it as a decimal this time. So to get r by itself, we will now subtract 1 from both sides. That will leave us with 0.03 equals r times 0.5. And then from here, our last step would just be to divide by 0.5 on both sides. So 0.03 we're going to divide by 5, and that will give us the interest rate that we need. So 0.03 divided by 0.5, and that gives us 0.06. Now this is your interest rate as a decimal. Okay, when you convert it from decimal to percent, you move it 2 times over. So that equals 6% as your interest rate. That's the way you want to give it. Okay, so indication here showing you percentage, you need to convert it to percent. So 6% is the interest rate.